TORAM Online has never been a stranger to having overpowered builds in their game. In the past, there have been some builds that were so strong that they required a nerf. Today we're going to be breaking down each build that was so powerful that it broke the meta. This is TORAM Online's top 10 builds that broke the game. Coming in at number 10, we have a build that I have a bit of bias towards because I actually did this build on my YouTube channel. This build did not deserve a nerf in my opinion. However, the truth is there that it did break the game. In guild raids, Enchanted sword was such a powerful skill that even with a boost, bow, katana, literally any class that was not one-handed sword magic warrior could not beat this build in guild raid. And this build was pretty good at fast killing, although it did not excel too well in it, like a lot of other classes did. This build was so strong that Asobimo completely gutted this skill. Not only did they nerf the skill, but they also had to nerf an entire crystal to balance the skill. I don't understand why they nerfed the crystal personally, because they took unsheath away from Enchanted sword, and so it's no longer an unsheath skill, and yet they still nerfed the crystal. I don't know, I guess they just don't want any other class playing unsheath, because another class in this video also got nerfed to the point where, I mean, it just doesn't matter that they nerfed that crystal. But anyways, I digress. Let's move on to our next one. And coming in at a whopping number 9 is Punish Ray. Punish Ray was an interesting build back in the day because there weren't many people that were using it, and yet the people that were actually using it were so strong that it warranted the first nerf for any skill in the game. This skill was just absolutely busted. So if you guys are familiar with Punish Ray right now, the way the skill works is that it gives you 150 critical on the skill right after it, and then the skill after that skill is given plus 100 critical, and then the skill after that skill is given plus 50, and it only gives the critical rate boost to the 3 skills after it. The old Punish Ray gave a guaranteed critical to the next 3 skills. So imagine using Punish Ray with the Strike Stab Halberd back in that meta. This was so overpowered where people were just skipping critical rate back in the day, because back then critical rate was such an important stat. You could not skip that stat. But back then, when Punish Ray was the way that it was, people were completely skipping their critical rate in their gear. This was basically allowing them to completely maximize their damage to the point where, I mean, no class could compete. Not bow, not the strike stab spam halberds. I mean, you're getting 3 strike stabs that are guaranteed critical after you use this skill. There were some people that actually maximized the damage of their Punish Ray as well. I did see people going intelligent strength back in the day. That's just a sign that, you know, the game's come full circle. But all in all, I mean, Punish Ray was such a busted build back in the day that it did get nerfed despite the sheer lack of amount of people that actually played this build. Next up, we have a skill that makes me quite angry. In fact, I might even go Super Saiyan 3 because of this. This skill is Lunar Misfortune. Now, you see, I actually played this build quite a lot. Like, it was one of my favorite builds. It was the only way that I wanted to play dual swords because, as you guys know, I love magic. I just made a video about Magic Halberd. I've just made a ton of videos about Magic Halberd. I played mage a lot at the time where dual swords was considered OP, and I really liked Lunar Misfortune because it was unsheath. I like unsheath as well, not katana, but I just like unsheath. I played the unsheath dual swords. I made a build video, and the build video did really well, and then, you know, a year later they gutted Lunar Misfortune. It was completely unusable. I mean, it's good again. I mean, yeah, I would say it's good again, but that's after they buffed other aspects of the skill. You can no longer use it with Storm Reaper because they nerfed Storm Reaper. It's just not, it doesn't gain short range damage at 8 meters anymore. It converts to long range damage now. It's just really annoying. You can't even really use it with Orbit Reaper either in a long range damage dual swords build because, again, like the maximum range I believe is like 12 meters, and Orbit Reaper takes you to 16 meters away from your enemy. Again, this build got so gutted. I forgot to tell you guys what this build was actually like. This build was able to basically one-shot bosses. This was the first one-shot boss skill in the game. I mean, this build was the first in the game. Basically, you could go to Chtholly, do a Storm Reaper Lunar Misfortune, one-shot kill. Yeah, there was people doing that. It only took 2 Lunar Misfortunes to kill Mimughan Nightmare. This was insane at the time. Like, this was like right when Dual Swords tier 5 got released, and you know, people had settled in with the tier 5 skills for the other classes, and you know, people were looking at Dual Swords like, what the heck, why can it do so much damage? At the time, I remember arguing and, you know, saying that I think that the damage is valid because, you know, it requires a higher level to build Dual Swords, but nah, screw that, bro, because Dual Swords, you don't even need a DTE weapon. You can use any weapon. You get your DTE from your sub weapon. Like, that was broken for what it was at the time. And I'm just gonna like stop pretending like it wasn't. Like, this deserves a solid number 8 on the list. Number 7, Burger King foot lettuce. All right, I made that joke already, but our next skill is kind of a bit of a doozy. This skill kind of ran the game for almost a year before Asobimo actually did anything with it. I remember when I came back to TORAM in 2020, this was the skill that everyone was using. Every build had it. Every single build had this skill. I was so sick of seeing it. Dual Swords had it. Two-hand sword had it. Katana had it. Freaking halberd had it. Some mages had it. It was out of control. Like, the game was out of control. Knuckles had it. It was the main DPS of like the entire game. Every class was using it. Yes, I'm talking about Soul Hunter. Everyone likes Soul Hunter. Everyone was using this skill. I'm not even going to talk about it. On to the next skill. Yeah, so number 6 is Magic Warrior again. At the exact same time that we had the Enchanted Burst Sword BS, we also had Reunion Sword. But this Magic Warrior is not the one-hand sword one. This is Knuckle Magic Device Magic Warrior. Yeah, so you could basically build the tankiest DPS in the game with this build, and I don't know how to put this. Yeah, you're not supposed to be able to take every rank with one character. You could take support. You could take literally every rank. They had to nerf Reunion Sword, and even after they nerfed Reunion Sword and Enchanted Burst, I mean, this build is still good to this day. That should tell you just how strong it was. I mean, people were one-shotting Demonic Quasar with this. 70 million damage. Yeah. They were managing a 70 million damage Reunion Sword. Don't know how. I'll never know how, because I never actually went and tried it, but it was busted. And then they went and nerfed Annihilator, where now it doesn't get the buff from Annihilator anymore. And they also just nerfed the skill itself. It's not as good, but again, it's still really good. I mean, the skill was so busted back then. Yeah. I mean, that's what everyone had their eyes on. Meanwhile, I was optimizing Unsheath Magic Warrior, and then, you know, I got hit, you know, with a nerf as well. So everyone lost in that update. Everyone had to pack their bags and sell their gear for very, very cheap. Everyone, honestly, Asobimo, we need compensation for that. Like, my Spinna was hurting. Like, balance the skills before you release them, please, because come on, man. Yeah, no, this skill is broken. Yeah, on to our next skill. Up next on our list of builds that broke the game, this is the only time that support has ever been busted in TORAM Online history. Yeah, support is on this list. Imagine that. So there was a point in time where Asobimo messed up. So it was two things. So we had Adlib and Auto Device working in tandem. So you could basically give your team infinite MP while also prorating with Auto Device. And it was just like, it just worked. It was very, very OP. And not only just that, you know, if you wanted to just be a prorator, you had the best proration in the game with this as well. You had the Kunai Auto Device situation. Yeah, they both got absolutely gutted, like destroyed, and it's just a shadow of its former self now. But like, this was broken. This was like genuinely broken enough for support to be in every party at the time. And I'm kind of disappointed that this got nerfed, because I mean, support, they either get kicked from parties now, or they're just there to inflate the damage of some random YouTuber that wants to make their damage seem way higher than it actually is. Support's pretty useless now because like it got nerfed. Like, I feel like support's like the one thing in the game that actually needs to be busted. And unfortunately, this is like the one thing that I don't have that much footage on, because there were only like 5 people testing this, and they were all in Owl Cafe, and like the people that were doing it, like, they're not YouTubers. So it's a very unfortunate situation not having much gameplay. So hopefully whatever you're seeing now is cool. But yeah, let's go into our next one. Coming in at number 4, we have everyone's favorite one-shot skill. The skill that everyone hated, like everyone hated it. The people that used it hated it. The people that made these builds just hated it, but they still did it. But there was those people that liked it because, you know, they could level up their pets with this skill. Yeah, we're talking about Kadal. Yeah, I don't have much to say. You know, I mentioned I loved Mage. Like, I liked Mage, and I had been asking for a skill like Kadal, but not Kadal. I didn't ask for them to just give me a skill where my magic cannon is 100% at the start of the fight. Like, that's insane. And not to even mention that this makes the next skill after the guaranteed critical. But, you know, that part was bugged, and it's still bugged, so yeah, we're just not going to talk too much about that part. I'm just going to give myself and everyone else a headache by doing that. So, Asobi mode, like, I want to comprehend why. Just why. But, you know, they nerfed it, and now Mage is cool again, so everything's good, you know? So on to our next skill. I'm sure not many of you are going to even remember this next one because it happened so long ago, but if you were around when Katana came out, then you know just how overpowered it was. It was so overpowered that they had to nerf Zante, they had to nerf Hapa, and they also had to nerf the Zoban crystal because the unsheath that it gave you was way too high. It was so long ago, I don't really think I have any pictures of the old stats for that crystal, but yeah, Katana was insane. You had Hapa, you had Hapa, and then you had Zante, but you also had Hapa. This was the first time you'd ever seen 1,000,000 damage on a single hit in any skill. You were seeing 1,000,000 damage Zantes, but you know, Zante was a conditional skill. I would say that was much more balanced than Hapa. Like, Hapa was just insane. Take a shot every time I said Hapa.
Do that nigga. Oh, shit!
In our number 2 spot, we have a quite legendary skill. Probably one of my favorite skills in the game, actually. But unfortunately, this skill, Asobimo could not keep their hands off of it. It's been through so much. So many hard times, so many good times, so many bad times, mostly bad times. But, you know, this skill's been through more than me. And I've been through a lot, you know. I'm talking about Draconic Charge. This skill on release was just insane. Like, the motion speed of it was ridiculous. It was the fastest DPS skill in the game by far. But let's not even talk about that because that could have been fine, right? They didn't stop there. The damage of this skill was unacceptable. This skill was able to do 10 million damage spammable on release. This is like day 1 of tier 5. People were buying halberds, and then, you know, it got nerfed, and, you know, people were selling their halberds for like super cheap. This is a pattern whenever there's poor balance in the game. Yeah, Asobimo really messed up with Draconic Charge, and I wish I was able to test it. I was so busy testing Katana, and, you know, I was also busy testing Bow. It was a bad time for tier 5 halberd, but I mean, it was so strong that, I mean, everyone was playing halberd. So yeah, there's that. So if you know your TORAM online through process of elimination based off of the things that I've mentioned already in this list, you will have come to the conclusion that Shining Cross is number 1, and you will have been correct. Shining Cross was so broken that me, someone who wasn't even playing TORAM online at the time, like I wasn't even part of the community, I was hearing about this skill. How is that even humanly possible? Like, TORAM is such a small game with such a small community, and yet I'm still hearing about Shining Cross. Make that make sense. This skill is just free real estate. It regened almost the entire amount of MP that you used when you use this skill. It was basically just better Draconic Charge. Like, it did pretty much the same thing. It was just better Draconic Charge. Like, it regen the MP, it regen the HP. This skill was absolutely nuts. Yeah, Shining Cross deserves every bit of number 1 on this list, and I'm not even like exaggerating it. Compared to everything that's been in the game, this was by far the most broken skill that has ever existed in the game. This allowed dual swords to be the tankiest and strongest class in any party at any given time. It was just too much. It was too much, man. It was definitely the strongest build that TORAM Online has ever seen in existence, because I think every player was quite possibly playing this build just based off of what I've heard and what I've seen on YouTube. I mean, it seems like everyone was playing dual swords. I don't think there was that much of a unanimous swap to any class in the history of the game, you know, outside of Katana with Hapa, but again, we're not gonna go there. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this fun little video I made. I just wanted to go down memory lane on some of the balance of TORAM Online, because TORAM Online's been getting a lot of new skills lately. A lot of strong ones, a lot of weak ones, a lot of skills that people just haven't tested, and vice versa. And the game's in a state of good balance, in my opinion. And so just giving people a perspective of what overpowered actually looks like in the game, I just wanted to go through memory lane and talk about it. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and peace out.